If a bully victim uses every possible solution to stand up to a bully but it doesn't work, should they resort to violence knowing they may get suspended? Why or why not? Don't start the fight, definitely finish it. My dad always said keep swinging till they can't, then stop cold because the fight's over. From that point on, anything more and you become the butthole. I think it would be acceptable, but the only goal should be to be left alone. I suppose it is better to be feared by others than it is to walked all over and trampled on. I'll tell you my story. After being bullied for 3 months straight, my father knew. It was too obvious to him. My father walked into my room one day, told me he knew I was being bullied, and that my only quest was to find a good opportunity to beat his butt. Not to win, not to be victorious, just to cause him as much physical pain as possible as quickly as possible. That I was to instill in that freaking bastard that to frick with me, to harass me, was to receive trouble, and more importantly, pain. I was told that I would not face any consequences at home. I was outside waiting for the school staff to let us in, and he was there. He was harassing me and his other friends were mocking me. They called me skinny, anorexia boy. I was a wiry bastard, a squirrel child apparently. I was told my arms were twigs. I was mad, so I was done. I got in his face, and he arrogantly laughed at me, but he was backed into a corner. Bad idea. I body slammed him and he fell backwards into the wall and I wailed onto him, punching as fast as I could, ignoring his friends. I grabbed his shirt and they were dragging me and him. I kept punching until I was forcefully removed. I was told by somebody that I looked like Scrappy. Let me at him. Them at him. The school cop had pinned me to the wall. I was suspended and proudly confessed to everything and told the principal and the school cop point blank that if they came to me to bully me ever again, I would do it again. The principal was appalled at my brazenness. When my dad came in, he went in the back with the principal and chewed his butt out. He kept asking how they never noticed or bothered to do anything about it, and then he told them he could punish me as they saw fit, but he fully stood behind my decision. I was suspended for 3 days. When I came back, he never so much as came near me, and was bruised heavily. His friend, much smaller, tried some crap with me, but once I pinned him to a wall he cowered in fear. I let him go. The others thought I was a crazy kid. At least they never bothered me. I was, however, generous and loyal to those who were my friends, and people learned that. Your dad is freaking amazing. Please make sure he knows that. Yup, sometimes violence is the answer. You can do everything in your power to de-escalate a situation peacefully, but it's not always going to be enough. Physical means are sometimes required to resolve an issue. Yep, it makes everything better if done right. Say you're the bully. You've probably grown up getting away with whatever you wanted and you've found sport in tormenting other kids. Getting your butt beat will directly teach you your consequences have actions. You're probably not going to risk getting pummeled again. Say you're the bullied, you've taken this abuse and nobody will stand up for you no matter what evidence you have and who you take it to. Beating that bully's butt teaches you to stand up for yourself and helps with the victimization mindset. You also get a free vacation from school. Your consequences have actions. I believe all other options should be pursued before resorting to violence, but everyone has the right to defend themselves. I think part of the problem is that kids don't know all of their options. They tell an uncaring teacher or a lazy guidance counselor or a busy parent and nothing gets fixed, and they assume because one adult didn't or couldn't properly help them then no one will. They don't realize they can escalate things to the principal, or the school board, or the local press, or the police, or a lawyer. Problem is, if the school administration isn't gonna help, they very well may be actively telling you not to take it to police or a lawyer. Cover-ups happen constantly in schools, and a kid who's being bullied may not be in the mindset to escalate who she's involving while being told not to. I've seen it happen to a number of people. I teach my kids what I call the United Nations rule. Never escalate a confrontation, but it's fair game to match aggression. Try and resolve situations peacefully, but don't allow yourself to be bullied or taken advantage of. In short, if a bad situation starts, try and de-escalate it, and if that doesn't work, find someone else to get involved. There is no shame in asking someone else for help, be it a friend or a teacher. However, if someone shoves you, it's fair game to shove them back. but not punch them in the face. If they punch you, then you can punch them if you need to defend yourself, but defense isn't the same as retaliation. I'm old school. Best way to deal with a bully is to stand up for yourself and kick the crap out of them. Totally worth the suspension, and by the way, your HS record has very little impact on your adult life. This is assuming you have the ability to win a fight, which not many bullied people do. I mean, if you snap and Hulk out, more power to ya. But I know my limits. I also wasn't bullied that badly, so the best revenge is to not peak in high school and have a better life than them. When I was in early high school here in Australia, it was around 1995 to 1996, I was bullied real bad. I was in a military family, so moved about a bit, which meant I didn't have any long-term friends or any real social group. I also had the unfortunate disadvantage of being a redhead, so basically, I was fair game for bullies. I had the crap kicked out of me. At one point I was held down in an irrigation ditch and thought I was going to drown. No one ever believed me, so I just stopped going to school. I would skip weeks at a time and never really be questioned about it. Eventually, these kids that were giving me a hard time found out where I lived and followed me around and would throw rocks, bricks at me or slash the tires on my bike. Anyway, I had an absolute gutful, so I started to fight back. I got the crap kicked out of me in the daily. I'd fight back every time, but I'd always lose. Eventually though, I started winning, which was worse. I put one kid in hospital and claimed a few of his mates' teeth ached. But this just created a new challenger kind of vibe. The whole thing was a mess. Bigger kids were coming out of the woodwork and beating me up as some sort of challenge. It was fricked. Eventually my dad got posted to a different state and we left as if it never happened. I ended up repeating a year of high school, which was massively embarrassing, and never really got good at making friends until my 30s. I really don't know if fighting back was worth it. The whole stand up for yourself is not always best done with fists. I wish I knew to just call the police or some crap. Maybe made things better? Who knows? Pretty sure getting physical is not the answer though. Yes, they don't expect confrontation back, so if you can put up a fight it would work. If you get beaten badly, then the bullying will probably continue and worsen though. I beg to differ. If you can at least show that you're not some pushover and can give the bully heck, he probably won't bully you, or at least not to the degree he used to. I've thought about how I was bullied and how I might have handled it better. The suggestions of just fighting back are dubious. The people who bullied me tended to be very muscular. One of them went on to become a martial arts champion. The very best way to deal with a bully is to have friends who will stand by you. The Harry Potter books showed this well. Draco would say something to Harry, but it would be Hermione who talked back. Then when he insulted Hermione, it would be Ron who responded. They kept Draco from being able to focus. But you probably don't have those kind of friends, or you wouldn't be asking. My suggestion is as follows. 1. Make it very clear and very loud that you don't want his attention. If he is harassing you in school with around, you just have to say it loudly enough for everyone to hear. Do your best to sound angry instead of whiny. If no one is around, report the incident to a teacher, principal, or guidance counselor so they know something is happening. 2. Report it. Again, you'll want your objection to be loud and clear, but this time confirm with a teacher or other school personnel that they know about the incident. 3. Next time yell. Call them every name in the book and don't let up. Don't give them a chance to respond or get a word in. If they start yelling too, you just keep on yelling too. Insult his mother, his father, his masculinity, his clothes, whatever. Use the worst obscenities you can think of, but not racial epithets, because that will backfire on you. Practice at home so you know you can keep going as long as needed. Keep this up until he gives up or a teacher is forced to intervene because you are being so disruptive. At this point, the school knows it has to act. It knows you have already reported the problem, so they can't blame you for standing up for yourself. They can't suspend you for fighting. And you haven't backed down, so you haven't lost too much respect. People might think you're a bit psycho, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Depending on how your school feels about homosexuality, your initial request to be left alone can be stated as a desire that he stop hitting on you because you are straight and not interested in dating him. Absolutely. I was relentlessly bullied for most of my school years. My parents had taught me that violence was never the solution, that I should rise above, etc. That might have worked if my school had a functional discipline system, but almost everything that didn't happen right in front of the principal was ignored. Teachers did not have much support from the administration. Finally my mom noticed I was coming home with black eyes and fat lips and asked if I wanted to take a martial art. After about a year of judo I snapped one week and started using it. After choking out 2 kids in 4 days my life improved dramatically. I got sent to the principal's office for one of those, but after waiting around for half an hour the final bell rang and I just left and got on the bus. Letting yourself get kicked around isn't doing your society any good, and if the system isn't working to protect you then you have to protect yourself. My philosophy was that my kid has always been to try the proper channels first. Talk to teachers, administrators, police. Get everything documented. Then if nothing changes, any and all manner of physical defense is fair game. You've attempted to stand up for yourself by playing by the rules. You have a mountain of paperwork to back you up. Now it's time to throw down and get dirty. I would not punish my kid any further at that point if they came home with a suspension. I was picked on occasionally in HS. Found it valuable to have strong friends. I was the equipment manager for the varsity hockey team since freshman year, so I had juniors and seniors that liked me. One lunch period, one jerk was picking on me. I was rather ignoring but he was persistent. We had class together next hour. Leaving lunch, one of the senior wings just nonchalantly lifted him up and threw him butt first into the garbage can in front of everyone. Next class, kid was huddled in his chair all peed. Lesson of the day, don't mess with a team's water boy. Depends on what you mean with violence. Not everyone can win a fist fight and I'm not in favor of resorting to knives or other weapons as a solution. It is not the suspension that you should be worried about, but about what happens when you escalate to violence. Sometimes it might help if you stand up for yourself and for example, hit the bully back. But depending on the situation it might also be that you're getting yourself in way more trouble and that the bullies are going to gang up against you even more, are going to give you a beating to save their faces, overpower you etc etc. So overall, I'm not in favor of using violence as a solution. BTW, bullying is not only physical, social exclusion, ridiculing, spreading rumors are also forms of bullying and I don't see how violence would help you to not be ostracized. Yeah, violence doesn't help when you're being emotionally tormented. Thinking back to my school days I was bullied by my friends every day, just saying mean crap and generally being B, but if I punched one of them I'd get in crap. If I told someone it'd come back to them and they'd be even worse. I legit just waited it out until high school finished. Yes, communicate, involve parents and school. Keeps happening, knock them the frick out. No person should be suspended for defending themselves. If you keep letting them take it a step farther, it could end up bad. Kids have been killed because a bully took it too far because nobody stops them. Protect yourself, not with knives or guns. Just learn how to protect yourself. It depends. I was bullied badly. At some point I resorted to violence. It was bad for the bully. I actually almost killed her. She never messed with me again, but her friends were relentless. I guess they hoped I'd whoop them too. I just wanted to be left alone. I was bullied for 6 months in grade 9 by the same kid who would hit and harass me. I told the guidance counselor, the vice principal and the gym teacher who witnessed it. Nothing happened. Eventually I hit the kid back and got charged with assault. They all denied me coming to them but my mom knew and tried to fight for me. That's brutal. If there are no other options, I was raised to be the better person and just walk away from the bullies. This does not freaking work. I'd recommend taking up a martial art because it teaches discipline, raises self-esteem, and teaches you how to be more in tune with your body. A lot of martial arts state that you should never use your training for offensive reasons, but you should definitely defend yourself if someone is antagonistic and isn't backing down. But yeah, sometimes you have to defend yourself, even if there's a price to pay for it. Yes, I think it is fine to use violence as a last resort if you have no other options. If I ever have a child, I will teach them that respecting people is of the utmost importance, but I will also teach him how to not be pushed around, bullied, or be a doormat. If it comes to it that nothing else worked and they get into a confrontation, I I will not be upset with them if they got into an altercation. If I am called into the school to pick up my son or daughter for standing up for themselves, I will not punish them for acting appropriately if they tried every other non-violent method. If they get suspended, I will not care and I will say so to the school administration. It is more important to me that my child understands that respecting one another is important and there is a time and a place for to be physical if it comes to it. Yes, but be careful. Don't let aggression boil up in you. Don't retaliate for the things the bully has done in the past. Only respond to the immediate situation. Not just because it's important to control the feelings, but also because there's a higher chance you won't get in too much trouble if they're the ones who initiated the fight. And of course, make sure you can actually take them. I spent 9 years of my school life being bullied. I tried avoidance, reasoning, bribing, getting parents and teachers involved. Nothing worked. Mostly those actions just made it worse. Eventually, I snapped and beat the tar out of a bully, got the boot in and everything, was caught by the teachers and suspended, but I wasn't messed with again after that. Normally, a record in HS or MS won't actually make all that much of a difference in the rest of your life, and the character development that comes from finally standing up for yourself and putting down someone who's a piece of crap is very valuable for both parties. But with that being said, I really do believe that there's always a way to solve an issue without violence. It just needs to be done in the right way at the right time. I'd say resorting to retaliation is worth it, as long as it's understood that violence should always be a last resort. Dude, schools are BS. I got suspended for fighting and I didn't even throw a punch. This kid that tried to bully me threw a punch and broke his hand on my shoulder. I got called into the principal's office for it, requested to see the footage since the bully had the foresight to do this right in the line of sight of a camera. The principal pulled up some 2 frames per second BS and said all they know is this kid is going home with a broken hand and I don't have a scratch. So I got suspended. So yeah, beat the frick out of your bullies. You'll probably get suspended anyway. Yes, one of the biggest regrets of my life is not punching Charlie, a kid that bullied me incessantly, straight in the nose as hard as I could. Not standing up to my bullies still impacts me to this day. As a 39-year-old adult, I say this as someone that was raised by parents that taught non-violence conflict resolution in the community, and I still believe in non-violence. Yes, I realize this is a contradiction. Bullying is abuse. Plain and simple. But kids are often told that it's their fault they are abused by other kids, and are forced to continue to face abusive situations, day after day after day. This isn't okay. Repeated abuse of any kind, over long periods of time changes your brain and who you are. I believe that it's seriously impacted my ability to interact in social situations as an adult, and dramatically increased my social anxiety, in ways that I'm only now starting to figure out and try to address. At all costs, get yourself out of abusive situations, which includes bullying. Use your other options first, but if they don't work, use violence if you have to. The impact to who you are and who you will be the rest of your life is not worth it. Fight in defense of yourself or others, always. Just be sure your cause is true. Things can get blurry in haze of anger. I got bullied in middle school and high school. Every single bully got the crap kicked out of them because even though I was, and am, a total nerd, I also took martial arts for years. No bully came after me twice, but after enough violent encounters you will get expelled from the school and sent to another school where you have no friends and no reputation, which leads to more bullying, which leads to more self-defense, which leads to more expulsions. I would definitely let the school know in a recorded correspondence, email, recorded conversation, etc., that the bullying is taking place and give them an opportunity to address it from their end. Once you have evidence that you reached out to the school and nothing was done, they will have a much harder time punishing you for self-defense. Yes, if nothing else works, show that be who's boss, especially if they are physically hurting you, cause then it could be self-defense. I didn't get bullied in high school after I broke someone's nose. The principal tried to call my mom in to meet with him, but upon being told what happened she just said, "So what's the problem?" though principal was dumbfounded and dropped the issue entirely. Things that violence is an appropriate response to. Physical assault. Things that violence is not an appropriate response to. Words of any kind, including offensive ones. Clothing, including clothing bearing images or words you don't like. Signs, including signs bearing images or words you don't like. Group identity, including groups you don't like. Absolutely. Caveat though, if violence for self-defense is the response, there's no more escalation. Fight to win from the start and as quickly as possible. My bully was quite taller than me, so I just jumped and hit the top of my head on the underside of his nose as hard as possible. Did get a scolding from one of the teachers, but he never came near to me again. Best part was when I got to 10th grade I found out his height had remained the same and I was substantially taller than him. As the mother of a toddler who accidentally headbutts me from all angles, I can confirm that that's a bad place to get hit. Depends on the bully. In my school, it was a kid called Dominic. Super fat ginger frick. He didn't like that I lived closer to the school than he did, so he followed me home one night and started throwing bricks inside my house, shattering windows and threatening to bash my skull in for it. This was 5th grade. I had never met him before. Police got him and his parents picked him up. He was back in school the next day. I was staying in a motel during repairs. Made complaints to the school. Tried to get CPS to do something, etc. Nothing. He kept bullying me in school until I smacked him in the face with a chair after he pushed me to the ground, kicked me and stole my lunch bag. I was suspended for 3 weeks, then transferred into a class for kids who are violent, which he was in. He was the victim, so he got a trip to the nurse's office and I had to write an apology letter to him. I refused to write that apology letter, which extended my suspension to a whole month and forced the school to place me in a class for trouble kids, which he was in. It was heck. But he was afraid of the teacher and actually behaved in there. I stopped showing up. In high school, I was back in regular classes while he was still in the trouble kids class. From what I understand, he killed another student's pet dog, bring your pet to class day, for troubled kids, and was kicked out of school for it. He'd still show up here and there to try to attack students, mostly with rocks. So yeah, it really depends. Most of the time though, absolutely go punch that frick in the face. They might try to make it sound like the repercussions are gonna stick with you forever, but that's BS. You could literally get away with murder. I'm my school district. You can get suspended for being the victim in a fight. So the person beating you up gets suspended and so do you, even though you didn't hit back. So in this case, if you're gonna get suspended either way, defend yourself. I know it's a different world now, but I grew up in the 70s and was bullied mercilessly. One day, after being bullied by a neighbor at the age of 5 or 6, my dad said never come home crying again. I don't care what it takes. Grab a rock, a stick, or a bottle and make sure you win. I walked to my neighbor's house. His mom opened the door to let me in and I walked over to the couch and punched him straight in the face. That pretty much set the scene for the first 18 years of my life. Anytime I felt slighted I'd swing. Most had never been punched. Once they got hit and realized it's not like the movies, they'd crumble. Probably 200 fights before I reached 18. Yeah, anger issues. Other parents were terrified of me. I'd punch, bite, scratch. I refused to lose. It didn't help that I eventually worked a job that made me a target through my teen years for those at Kerr, a skate guard at a roller skating rink. I was really small in my younger years. I hit a growth spurt in high school and jumped from 5 feet 7 95 pounds to 6 feet 1 200 pounds. Yet people still fricked with me even though I would beat them senseless. Rarely the same person twice. I've put more than one into the hospital. I can count on one hand the number of fights I lost in those years, yet many seem to take it as a challenge. I haven't thrown a punch in over 30 years, so I guess I've gotten over it. Then my son was bullied in 5th grade. We went through all the normal channels to make it stop. Didn't work. I talked to the principal and said you have to stop this or we will. This won't be a middle school fall down wrestling in the dirt fight. He's going to walk up and punch him in the face. He's going to hurt him, and hurt him bad. I promise. You can stop this now or he will stop it. The principal was shocked, but the bullying stopped. Bottom line, these buttholes only understand violence. Absolutely, you're a minor in a system which will actively punish you for pacifism as much as violence. The victim should always fight back and hurt the bully. Not only is it the only way to actually solve bullying, the victim gets in trouble just as bad no matter what they do. If you out-violence the bully, you win. Some folks only understand violence. It's one of the few things I have figured out during the course of my life that is an absolute truth. I hate that it's true, but it's true. When I was a kid and bullied on the daily, violence wound up being the only thing they responded to, and it worked. But I've always had a hard time doing it because I felt it made me sink to their level. It's something you do as a last resort, not just because someone happened to point and laugh. My son is 10. I have already instilled in him a fear of becoming a bully. Something to the effect of, if I find out you're bullying someone, I'll personally show you what it means to be bullied, and our relationship will never be the same. I'm dead freaking serious about it, too. But if he gets bullied to the point where they commit violence against him, his instructions are to hit back and to keep on hitting as hard as possible until the other kid cries, bleeds, or passes out. I don't care what any other parent or authority figure says, and I don't care how bad the other kid is hurt. If my son is truly standing up for himself, I will defend him to the bitter end. I was picked on all throughout elementary and high school, by one kid in particular. One day in the 11th grade he was messing with me real bad to the point I snapped and turned around while swinging my fist, crushed his nose, broke it bad. It felt freaking good. It made me want to keep hurting him, so I jumped on him and started pummeling him for a few seconds before I got pulled off. I was seeing red. I could have potentially killed him if someone didn't stop me. I was so angry. We both ended up getting suspended. My dad told me to look at it like a reward vacation for finally standing up for myself. The moral of the story is the only way to best a bully is to actually physically beat them down to the point they fear you. There is no other alternative. Violence is the answer. Violence is not the answer. Violence is a tool, and it can be used in the service of an answer. In that situation, you showed him that will make his life difficult in a way that matters to him if he keeps bullying you, and you, rightfully in my opinion, assuming you've related the story accurately, used violence to deliver that message. But violence was not the message. I'd resort to the old-fashioned way, aka knocking their lights out. I was always taught that if someone hits you, hit them 5 times harder. You most likely will get in trouble, but if you play your cards right you may be able to smooth talk your way out of a suspension. The real problem with bullying is that no matter what you do, once someone chooses to victimize you, you will be permanently affected by that decision and you will be affected by your response to it no matter what it is. I was bullied to the point where even 15 years since high school I suffer from its effects, and I was the kid who very often reacted violently to it. When you are violent, even in defense, it changes your perspective of yourself and you will spend your life expecting violence wherever you go. I wish I had better control over my anger and still do. By contrast, I knew someone bullied just as badly who never got violent, but she wishes she had. Her not reacting or standing up for herself also had terrible effects on her psyche, and like me it devastated her ability to form normal relationships. There are no good choices. Once someone decides to make you a victim, they've already stolen control of your life from you. To get it back you need to decide who you are and live by it. If that means standing up for yourself, then fight. If it means not getting zero tolerance policy out of school, then walk away. Only you can decide what is most important to you and take the long view. In the short term you will suffer regardless of your decision. Making sure you as a person doesn't suffer in the long term is the goal. I kind of think they should resort to violence much earlier than after they tried everything else. Unpopular opinion time. Bullying is only a problem because we live in a society where we teach people not to stand up for themselves. I got bullied for almost 6 years. It all originated around one person and I tried everything. The school's policies rarely mean anything to those people, and just yelling at them doesn't scare them, especially if they're in a group. It took me a full year of physical bullying, until then it had only been verbal, to realize that the only thing that would make them stop is to play their game. Fight fire with fire. I made one cry by throwing him into a fence and they didn't come near me again. Totally worth the suspension. I think so. Fighting back, even if you lose, can be enough to curb further bullying. It can go badly though. Some bullies are legit psychopaths and could take it too far. Yes, people who say violence is not the answer haven't been bullied. Violence is the answer. Beat the crap out of them. Learn some self-defense first. if you can, before fighting back against bullies. Then give it everything you got. There is no permanent record. When you're an adult, no one gives a flip if you got suspended. When I was in high school, there was a laid back, quiet, classy dude named Carl. Even though Carl kept to himself, this bully wanted to beat him up. So they met in the gym to fight, and Carl kicked the living crap out of his tormentor. Carl had been taking martial arts classes his whole life. It was so satisfying to witness. There is one other option to violence: mockery. If you're witty, you can punish your bully by coming up with a clever but insulting, demeaning nickname that the entire school will adopt, or mock something about him, make him the laughingstock of the school. It worked for me. I wasn't bullied. You have been visited by the Wealth Rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.